Hi everybody. We're gonna start. So, my name is Daniel. Moi, je parle anglais en français, je parle les deux. Donc, si jamais vous avez des questions, vous pouvez poser les questions en français ou en anglais. There's gonna be at the end a part only for questions, like time dedicated for questions. But if you want to know something like in particular, just raise your hand and I can take a break in the middle. I have an accent in both, so that I cannot do much on it. And what we're going to talk today is about how we optimize the resources on Google Cloud. And one of the things that in the previous presentation, if you were here in the cloud with Stacy, most of the stuff that we're going to talk, it's focused on Google Cloud because it's sponsored by Google, everything on the dev side is sponsored by Google, but you can always apply it to any other cloud. So anything that Stacy said, for instance, you will find something similar in Azure or AWS. And everything that I'm going to talk about, you will find something similar also in those platforms. I'm less biased than Stacy because Google doesn't pay me or I'm not being sold by it. So what I'm going to talk today is really experience on work. Okay, I was introduced to cloud using Google. That's one of the reasons why I like it more. But I also work in my day-to-day with AWS and Azure. So the infrastructure that I manage in my company, it's a mixed environment. And that's mostly what you're going to find. It's rare when you go outside here that you have a company that is 100% one of them. Might be 90%, 80% one of them, but you're always going to have a connection in between them. So with that, I talk a little bit about myself, but I'm just going to talk more in deep. I've been working with technology and cloud specifically for 7 years. I've been interested in technology my whole life. When I went into college was computer engineering. And then after that, there was a gap that I wasn't working directly on technology, but always piquing my interest and trying to apply what I learned in college to the day-to-day. And for the past 4 years, I've been working with Goodfood Market. It's a meal kit company, and it's an e-commerce. So it's strongly based on a web platform with in-house development. And everything that we do, everything that we support in that company is in-house. So we don't outsource our cloud, we don't outsource our development. Everything is done in cloud. So that actually was like a really spike on my development because we needed to learn everything all the time. Still good? So with that, my co-presenter, it's Richard. So if you read the keynote, or the description of the talk, it's me and Richard that are going to be presenting you. Richard is the Goodfood mascot. And the reason why I thought good to bring Richard into the mix is because he represents what we're going to talk about. In Goodfood, one of the key values is do more with less. And some people, when they see this, they say, oh, they want to be cheap. They want just not to spend money, but it doesn't necessarily mean don't spend money. It's just we can allow you to spend money, but if you already have something, use it at like 100% or 90%. Like try to use it as much and try to waste the least amount of resources that you have. And that translates on everything, on every aspect of the company. Richard represents that. Richard is a raccoon that is angry. If you haven't seen the commercial, is angry because Goodfood doesn't waste food because everything is portioned. So there's no food going to the waste bin, so Richard cannot get any food from the waste bin on the floor. And that's the idea of the talk, okay? Mostly it's gonna seem like I'm focusing on money all the time, but remember that it's not because I don't want to spend more and that's the main driver. It's also I want to profit about what I have already and take the most I can of every resource, okay? So I want to start with a quote, and this is a quote that was introduced to me like a year ago. Ordinary things consistently done produce extraordinary results. And I'm just going to leave it there. I want you to think about it in every step of the presentation today. because it's important, and at the end, you're going to see how everything comes together. This is one of the things that are more important when you're trying to optimize everything that you do on cloud. Okay? So now, why does it matter that we optimize our resources, our stack? The important thing is Richard is not happy because we're not wasting anything, and that's one of the key things that we're going to see when we're not wasting. For sure, the first thing that comes to mind when you when you go out of the school and you start working is always money. Sadly, the money always rounds the business, and at the end of the day, money is a really important part of it. But it doesn't mean that it has to be the driver for everything. So for sure, cost optimization is the first thing that we think when we're optimizing resources. We're trying to spend the least amount of money and getting the most amount of profit possible with what we spend, right? So cost optimization is one of the key points. But also, like I said, it's going to talk a lot about money, like return of investment is kind of the same thing. But performance enhancement is also a thing. Optimizing resources is not just about which one is the least expensive one that can do what I need, is which one is the best suited to do what I need. And you're going to find that most often than not, the most optimized resource on performance base is also the most cost effective, because you're not wasting resources on something that is performing at its peak, at its best performance. You're not wasting anything. You're spending exactly what you need on those. The third one, and this is one that people, when we talk about cloud and we talk about technology, we sometimes forget sustainability, because even if you're on cloud platform, like for instance, Goodfood is 100% cloud. Okay, we don't have servers, we don't have, not even the Active Directory is on our servers, everything is on cloud. So we don't have any in-house resources, right? But those resources that we don't have in-house, they're in-house somewhere. Like the Google Cloud resources, we have some in California, we have in Montreal, we have in data centers usually, and those are still spending resources, natural resources, that are affecting the environment in a way. If you have a VM, let's say, standing there doing nothing, that VM is still causing an impact, and you're just wasting that VM, even though it seems to me that it's just something on my screen that I don't actually see. When you see all the processing power that needs to happen for that VM to be available for you, you'll notice that that you shouldn't spend. It's a little bit more that. So sustainability is one of the key points also on that. And the last is do more with less. That's the Goodfood ballot that we talk. It's something that I think we can always think of, and like I say, we apply that throughout the company on everything that we do, and it's more of, I already do with it. How can we do it? So throughout the presentation, what I'm going to do is, now that we know that is why it's important or why we should take in our resources, what I'm going to do is give you some ideas of how to start. And at the beginning, in the few next presentations, you're going to see, yes, you're talking about things that I have no idea how to manage, right? And at the end, it's going to come together. So if you have questions in the middle, probably at some point I'm going to say, just wait a bit. We're going to talk about it a little bit later. But I'm going to make sure that every idea comes together once the presentation is at the end. Whoops, the clicker is on the other way around. All right, so details. Cloud optimization. Sure, right size and resources. And when you read right size and resources, I'm a little bit dyslexic. I might read instead of right. But the key word is right sizing, okay? We're not talking just slowing down or making it bigger, it's for it. So what does that mean? When we choose the right instance type where we're in cloud, what is that we is of doing whatever we want with the machines. So we can choose exactly the type of resources that we want. I want 3 machines that have, or 3 instances that has 16 gigabytes of memory, but just 1 or 2 cores on processors. But then I want one that, but I only need like 8 gigabytes of memory, and I can meet some match all the time. So when I talk about right sizing, it's just you're choosing an instant. It's the right size for it. It's not the on a laptop is making sure that you choose the perfect. And and what we need to in mind is we is going to be saying about, but it's also the time while the VM is active. One of the things that we cannot do with a physical is just but since in Goodfood we have like I said, we have in-house development. So we have a lot of testing environments, and we have a lot of resources that are used for those testing environments, development environments. But so what and for sure with you need to go lower on resources. Right size of the workloads, we need to make sure that the part that I was saying is right sizing shouldn't be based on guess or on things that we think. You're gonna notice throughout the presentation is that everything that I'm talking seems like I want to implement something, knowing information, but the thing. React, or you have a cloud. You're gonna see it. And even people like Stacy, and we're gonna talk about partners a little bit further, with 25 years of experience, they won't get it right on the first time. It's almost impossible to get it right. So the right sizing happens on a process. And one thing that we need sometimes is missed. you always have a choice. You can do whatever you want. You can do whatever size that you want. You can many processor as many cores. But it's exactly the same thing as and having a laptop back, right? So and is right side and even if it doesn't say the program, it's always there's all. It's going to restrictions. All right, so moving forward. With company works 24/7, like I mentioned before. I cannot be 24/7 going up and down with resources just to make sure that everything is optimized. So that's where smart scaling and scheduling tactics come into play. And we have to remember that we have everything on the cloud, and we have managed services, and everything that is there is ephemeral. Even though it seems that it's not, it's ephemeral. So there's resources that are already there for us to help us do that. Specifically in GCP, but like I said, we have these kind of things on Azure and on AWS. Autoscaling is something that you will have. There's two things. First, you don't necessarily know when you're going to need more resources. Autoscaling, what allows is that you can put the bare minimum and just activate that thing, and it's going to scale up every time that is needed. And it's on your control. It's not. So, sources, right? But you have to remember that these are not performance metrics. Any machine that goes around more than 80% on their resources is not working anymore good. So even though when we auto-scale, we go to 3 machines, and in theory, we're spending more resources, everything that we're doing it faster because it's performing at its best. So those 3 machines are going to stay up for less time than these 2 machines to do the same thing, even though they are consuming more resources. And once it's done, it just goes back up. So this happens with every type of resources. And you can scale up based on performance, based on resources, based on time, on load. So it's limitless how you can auto-scale, and then you just start tweaking. Like in our business works in peaks because everybody wants to order stuff on the weekends, and everybody forgets about it on the first days of the weeks. So when everybody is going into our website at the same time, we just scale up to make sure that we can receive that kind of load. But since we know that our business is a fast pace, so everybody at 5 on Friday is going to just go in, I have to scale really fast. So my limit on resources is really low. Like 4% of resources, I also scale right away. In a business that is low growing, you will be able to do something different. Like, I know that in an hour, I'm not going to go from 80 to 90%. So then I'm going to put my limit at 80%. When I get to 80%, I'm going to have an hour before I reach my limit, and then I can scale up. So everything that you do is depending on studies that you do. Everything that you do, you see it. And even in the way that we perform, we have different resources with different parameters. Our database is controlled by our systems. So when you need to scale, it's our system that are asking them. So instead of asking the Cloud SQL to scale up, I just wait for but not necessarily my internal resources. So I can control at that point how much performance I'm giving to each resource. And then we have a scheduling. That's come after. So this is before, and that comes when you understand how your system works. This, what it does, is autoscaling seems to be really good, but it's not perfect. So it's going to oversize. It's always going to go over of what you need because it's preventive, right? So it doesn't necessarily know how much is gonna be the peak. Once you know those peaks, you can pre-scale. Instead of auto-scaling, you can pre-scale and you can prepare your system to receive the information. And that's also based on data. And the good thing is that in Google Cloud, we have something that is called Cloud Scheduler, and it's just basically a Chrome-based schedule that you can put any resource to go up and down. Anything that you think is possible on it, you can just attach a schedule to it. And it can be as precise as go up and down every 5 minutes, go up and down every month, go up and down every day of the month, every Tuesday, every Halloween, we can do it. So the Chrome expression allows you to do exactly what you want. And for instance, when I started in Goodfood, we had Black Friday, and every e-commerce has a peak on Black Friday. It's been 2 years that I don't worry about Black Friday because I created a schedule for it 2 years ago that in Black Friday is going to scale up automatically. For sure, I'm going to have alerts and everything to make sure that what I did is still working, but it's just for 1 day. And it's scheduled 2 years ago and it's still working. I don't have to think about it. So that's when scheduling tactics comes to help. All right, I hope I'm not going too fast. Resource tracking. So when I told you that most of the stuff that we talk about, it doesn't make sense because it seems like you have to know the future. This is the part that is going to help you understand that part, okay? So for sure, everything that I said, and I know that we can do it, is because I have 4 years working on it. I have 7 years of experience working with Cloud SQL, and I see trends. I know a little bit of how the business works and all that. But that's not possible unless we do proper tracking and proper monitoring. Just to get some points from Stacy, in the security, it's easy to let go security threats if you're not looking at them. So if you turn on the security command center, you have it there. You're tracking it already. So you're seeing everything. So it's easier to see. And the good thing about cloud is that you have the history, like forever. Like since the moment it was created, you have the history and you can always go back. So you can see the trends, again, past week, and you can see weekly trends, you can see monthly trends, you can see yearly trends. So you can understand things on the past. So this is the part what we can, and Richard is always watching the resources to make sure that we can create, and the monitoring tools that are in place are for everything. We have monitoring tools for performance, for amount of resources that we need. But we also have tools for how much money we're spending. So one of the things that is most important is always return on investment, or how much money we spend. So if you can see cost trends of things that we do. And then you can go in deep and say, okay, maybe I can run this longer and it's going to cost us less if I do it differently. And it's not going to be affected by the performance itself because it's not. And that's when monitoring helps. Sadly, we're not at the point yet with the AI that it will understand what you're doing. So you have to give a lot of data. This is the groundwork of resource monitoring. There is a lot of stuff in all the cloud platform, AWS, Azure, and GCP, that comes out of the box. But there's one thing that is always there. There is a tab. Resources. In the one thing is that label. Something you have what that resource is doing, what units are being used on that resource. So, for instance, every time that I and one of them is just the that is super important. It's not the same 5 minutes available for a person than 5 minutes available for my They can go hours without the system. I can see able to identify and then the same way that both that I want to see. Like everything happen all the time. One that a dashboard. I'm super happy. I told everybody, hey, look, this is my pretty dashboard. And for the next week, probably 2 weeks. And then I'm just going to forget about it. But I cannot forget of a news or an alert coming directly on my phone saying, hey, and this, and every time I go above that red line, at any point in time, it's not like at the end of the month, it's gonna let me know. For sure, for budget, it's kind of useless because I already spent the money, so I cannot recover it. The same thing happens on the bottom. Those alerts, those both lines that you see, are gonna let me know if spent or not. And one of the things that I like about it doesn't have like an idea of alerting. If it's been a month and I haven't received an alert, that means that resource grows, because it never goes to my limit. It never goes. So back to my and it's below 40% all month. Well, that means that I can just cut it in half that resource and then set the alert up again to the same 80%, but 80% of the new amount of resources. And that's when we come. So alert when it happens, and it's also good when it tells us that there's nothing wrong with it. So, there's two ways for everything on the dashboard. Like I say, a lot of what I, but it would be a student build a framework. It doesn't tell you exactly how it works, right? So you have to leverage something to help you understand what's happening. And at least for me, as a tech guy, I try to use the least amount of help from other people possible, and then go ask help from other people. And today we have tools like AI and other. And the good thing about it is that most cloud platforms are including AI on their platforms. So one of the things that we can do is, what is there for us to help us? And today we're just talking about me. I'm doing everything alone. I don't have a team. I don't have a developer. I don't know anyone that will help me. So everything that we talk about, you can do it by yourself. And this part is the same. So this is the part that you can do by yourself. How can you do it by yourself without having to have another person with you? Recommendations from the same way that the security advisor is going to tell you what is what is the security threat that you have. There is exactly the same thing on its resources. And if you open the recommendation, it's going to tell you, hey, you have this amount of resources that are being underutilized. You can save this amount of money if you change this VM to this model. So those. But once you do, one of the things that the AI is going to do that is that you can, and it's a real answer that I can apply on the monitoring is never going to tell me that, but the AI has things that I have no idea that exist. And he's saying, okay, even though you need a 270, and you can do a Redis of 270, you can go there and choose 270. It's better if you go and do 300, because something that is hard to find. There is, it's less expensive if you go, let's say, 100, 200, 300, than if you go 300 gigabytes is actually less expensive than 270. And that's something that I wouldn't know otherwise, but the AI does. The AIs that are there does, and they true. There's no bias. It's not something that they want us to use the resource. It's just tomorrow on the AI. So we know that a little bit, and that's how this type of things can help. Now, just so Stacy paid me. Yeah. That's a decision to make, and that's what is important. Everything that we do right sizing, we have to see trends. You cannot come in and we never see like in the real scenario. For sure. And that's the monitoring tools for help. So that's why I say that but the decisions are they don't. So again, now everything that we can buy ourselves. Like I'm telling you guys, I have people like me that have more experience than me. So that is what you always have someone. You always have nudge on my device. Sure. And the guy that gets you on the other part is never a sales guy. Never a sales guy. So it's gonna be a peer. It's gonna try to find out what the problem is. It's gonna try to find out what if someone reaches out to you. That's right. But when you reach out to them, it's always a technical guy that is in the other side. Never someone trying to you can manage the services that are going to be there, and they're going to be up and down whenever you want to. Think about it, schedule, you don't have to think about autoscaling. They are going to take care of it. There is a trade-off, for sure. More expensive because they need to put money on it, but then it's going to be more optimized because they want to get as much money as possible out of the resource, so you're sure they're optimizing at its best. That's their goal, that's their business, to optimize, so they can get the most gain. And that translates optimizing for you also. Those are the managed resources. Then you have internal partners on every cloud that you can always reach. And it surprised me how small you have to be served by them. You don't have to be like a served by we started stuff. And I had Google Cloud to our company. of the sponsors here, and Stacy is part of it. And I think I got the best the first month. Just people learn what it will take us. I say us. People like me, like have 4 or 5 years of experience working, or 2 to figure it out. It takes them probably half an hour video conference to let me know how to do it. So it just saves money right away. And that's the part that we have to, I've learned to lose a little bit of the scare. I'm not afraid anymore to make partners with someone else, because it's becoming a healthier business out there. So they're not just there to get your money, they're actually there to help you in most of cases. All right, so that takes me a bit over, but that takes me to the wrap up. And is ordinary things done consistently, they don't produce extraordinary results. Thanks, everybody.